You are so significant. Let's keep talking about the stars. So, why does this sound like strange teaching? Where does this come from? This comes from my method of going through the 7 letters. And as you're learning to overcome and you take on this burden to ask God questions and hit His Word to find out the meaning of every word and how that He uses that same word just like a little measuring tool in the way that He's used it. So you begin to develop what He is actually judging so that you can better determine your actions. So anyway, one of the promises, one of the rewards for overcoming and taking this on is the morning star. So you're also given, and there's some books like Enoch and such as that during the time of the development of Jerusalem and the entire history of our religion coming from there was a lot more, and it's referred to in the New Testament back Enoch. But it was at that time very typical thing to say the Son of Man. Of course, He hadn't come yet. We're all going to go around saying Jesus. But the star is that value. And this time clock and these teachings that we just get too spooked about, it doesn't hurt to study the stars. It doesn't hurt to listen to music. And these things glorify us. And as we master disciplines and focus in the human mind and the connection with the soul in these works are just a pleasure to God. Discipline is very important. And I'll start with the first thing about where this fits into man. Not only her in the sky, but when we look at those family members He chose to begin expressing Himself in the best word possible and the best we have, good for everything, but that's where you're going to get your stability and your peace from, correcting yourself to it. But you have all these suns, so you have 12 zodiac over them, and they all have a flag, and they all have disciplines of work, and they're part of an army. So, and He has chosen them to spread out to the whole world and assign, just by that first demonstration of small lots of their inheritance in that land, He always had on His mind that He was going to scatter them like seed to cause all of the other countries, and it's referred to as Gentiles, but that we're incorporated in, and the message of the gospel hitting the ends of the earth were always in His plan. This was for all of us. So that you have, if you can imagine them on horses, of course they weren't, but we're gonna do that just because horses are used in the military frame of mind in the pictures for this nature of raw horsepower and the ability, to have that arm and to stir a whole nation up to it. A horse just rushes into war and ignores all the battle. It's so sure. So anyway, the morning star, to see that the original false religions teaching these stars and sciences in order to capture and fleece mankind, Cain had no way of the earth providing for him. So he had to really be a parasite, and he could do this and be richer, because that's his nature, that's the devil's nature. This was going to be for us, and he wanted to be the one. So, of course, in heaven, whatever sexually happened, and then when we were put here, then you have Cain. You cannot throw Cain out of it. Again, I'm going to say this. Cain is in a lineage. If you look at lineages, there are all the numbers that those letters represent have to add up to specific amounts for individual rules that are astronomical, like 7 or 9, something like that I heard Chuck and Miss were talking about. That if a word is used only once, it has to add up to a certain number. If it's used more than once, if it's used only twice. And just to write down who has what kids is so precisely figured in the words that you will use and attribute to those family characters. So we're talking very difficult and time-consuming things. So if we're going to say that Cain and all his lineage is all by itself, and that all of Adam's kids are Adam's kids and Cain is not one of them, you can't say, oh, that's a mistake. If you do that, then the very basis of promises, inheritance, and the exactness of the word is just thrown away like a deed. You just, it doesn't count. You can't throw away all the genealogies. You just can't do that. There, of course, is no sex in heaven, but that whatever happened there when it came here where things from heaven were stars, this incorporation with what he tried and did take from us that was our heavenly body, our glory, our clothed in sun appearance, like this woman in the sky, that's what it turned up being. For us, we think of it because this is what we know. We get pregnant and have kids. But to see this in Cain as having happened first there, and this incorporation, that they did begin, everything that they did since they came here was layers of death. Well, just like we lost part of it in our clothing, there's more that we can gain back, and we're trying to keep our souls and gain back our spiritual coordination between them. And it seems like we'll get even a little bit more of that in this feeding that goes on in heaven when we get there. But to talk about the morning star, these teachings also, the very first one that would have gone wrong was considered Luciferian and called the first branch. It's almost missed. Some really good studies have been done on that to talk about this religious branch, the first branch. The word would have been translated differently because it was, what, sweetie? Very much like some of the Egyptian curiosities about the pyramid, where it's at and where it says, which can't remember the name of the town, but the town is like the border is what it means, but it's also on the border. So it says it sits on the border of. Well, if you translate that into a name, then you have exactly where the Great Pyramid is sitting. Sweetie, we just got in.